The princess of Amanda grew into a storm the city had never seen before. If Amanda was feared, her daughter was worshipped in terror. Where Amanda had built her empire with cunning and cruelty, the princess enforced it with relentless brutality. She had no patience for hesitation, no mercy for weakness. Even Amanda's most loyal men, who had killed without question, trembled at the sound of her footsteps. Whispers spread like fire through the city. Amanda was ruthless, but the princess was death itself. And yet Amanda was proud. She watched her creation with cold satisfaction, a smile curving her lips whenever her daughter's name made grown men shiver. "She is more terrible than I ever was," Amanda would say, and that is exactly what I wanted. For Amanda had not raised a child. She had crafted a weapon, a monster forged in blood and silenced, polished with wealth and fear. The princess of Amanda had become her greatest masterpiece. As the princess of Amanda blossomed into a young woman, her strength and cruelty were unmatched, but beneath the steel exterior, a different fire began to burn. Curiosity. Who was my father? Where did I come from? How did my mother meet my father? How was I created? These questions refused to leave her mind. Day after day, they grew louder. She studied Amanda carefully, watching how men bowed before her, how no husband or lover ever stood by her side. Why is my mother single? At first, she dared not to ask aloud. Amanda was not a woman one questioned, not even her daughter, but the princess's heart was restless. Curiosity dug at her bones like a relentless worm. Curiosity, curiosity, curiosity. It consumed her more than power, more than money, more than fear. She needed answers, and answers in Amanda's house were more dangerous than enemies. The princess of Amanda was feared by all, but there was only one woman she allowed close to her heart, Mrs. Adora, her nanny. Adora had raised her like her own blood. With Amanda, it was all commands. Do this, do that. Don't be stupid. Be brave. Never let your guard down. But with Mrs. Adora, there was warmth. There was sweets and cakes hidden under her pillows, soft lullabies whispered in the dark, gentle arms that held her when she cried. If Amanda had made her a weapon, Adora had made her human. And Adora had a son. He was the same age as Princess, and the two grew up side by side. They sparred together, practicing the brutal lessons Amanda demanded, but they also laughed together, shared secrets, and stole moments of freedom in a world of chains. One thing led to another. What began as friendship, pure and innocent, slowly grew into something deeper, something neither of them could resist. They fell in love. It was a dangerous love, one that could never be spoken aloud. For Amanda's daughter was not just a girl. She was the princess of Amanda, heir of an empire of blood. And Amanda had no room for softness, no room for weakness, and no room for love. "Where are you coming from?" Amanda's voice thundered the moment the princess stepped through the gates of the mansion. She had been gone all day, missing her scheduled training with the soldiers. Everyone had been sent to look, but no one found her. And now she had returned. Her eyes sparkled with something Amanda had never seen in her: happiness. The princess of Amanda had spent the day at the beach with Adora's son. They walked barefoot on the sand, laughed under the sun, and shared secrets no one else could hear. For the first time in her life, she had felt free. For the first time, she had butterflies in her heart. And when he whispered his love for her, she whispered it back. But the dream ended at the doorstep. Amanda's face was a storm. And before Princess could open her mouth, Amanda struck a blow. Then another and another. Amanda's hands, heavy with rage, fell mercilessly on her daughter. The guards turned their eyes away, for none dared to interfere. The princess collapsed to the floor, her lips bleeding, her happiness shattered. But Amanda was not done. She pulled out a gun, pressed the cold barrel against her daughter's forehead, and hissed through the clenched teeth. Do you forget who you are? You are the daughter of Amanda. You have no time for weakness, no time for love, no time for foolishness. The only thing you have time for is to rule this empire when I am gone. Tears burned in the princess's eyes, but Amanda's words cut deeper than any bruise. In that moment, she learned the cost of life in Amanda's world. Love was death, and Amanda had no room for it. She watched her mother's back as Amanda walked away, heels echoing like gunshots in the silent hall. Blood trickled down her face, the metallic taste filling her mouth. Her body ached from the blows, but her spirit burned hotter than ever. Slowly, painfully, the princess of Amanda rose to her feet. Her voice came low, steady, but sharp, enough to cut through the air. Mother, with all due respect, let that be the last time you will ever put your hands on me. Amanda froze mid-step. The room seemed to stop breathing. The guards, who had trained themselves never to flinch in the face of violence, now looked nervous at one another. The princess turned her face, blood still flowing from her lip, but her eyes glowed with defiance, with fire. Amanda turned back, her expression unreadable. For a heartbeat, silence ruled. Then slowly, a smile crept onto her lips. Surprise, pride, recognition. She laughed once, a low, dangerous laugh. Of course, she had raised not a daughter, but a lioness. Amanda whispered to herself, her smile widening. Finally, the princess of Amanda knew her mother's ways. She had studied Amanda all her life. She knew one thing for certain. If Amanda ever discovered her love, the boy would not live, so she tried to let him go. She ignored his calls, avoided his eyes, turned her back on the one person who made her feel human. But the boy, Adora's son, was stubborn. He loved her too deeply, too recklessly. No threat could silence him. Even when the guards beat him, dragged him from the gates, or chased him with guns raised, he returned, because love had made him fearless. And one day, fate betrayed them. Amanda went to the beach alone. She walked along the sand, her mind heavy with questions that refused to die. Who was my father? Where did I come from? Why do I feel like a stranger in my own home? Each wave that crashed against the shore seemed to whisper answers just out of reach, pulling her deeper into doubt. For all her mother's commands, all her mother's power, something inside her screamed that she did not belong. It was then that she heard footsteps. She turned, and there he was, the boy, Adora's son. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, but his eyes were steady, fixed only on her. You can ignore me, princess, he said, softly, his voice trembling with emotion, but you cannot ignore the truth. You are not who you think you are. The princess froze. "What do you mean?" she demanded, her voice sharp, but her heart pounding with fear. The boy's jaw clenched. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. "Your mother has lied to you. I know things about your past, about who you really are." Adora's son had spilled the beans. At first, the princess of Amanda could barely believe it, but Amanda had raised her too well, like a hunter. She didn't storm, she didn't rage. She hunted for the truth quietly, patiently, piece by piece, and the pieces led her to him, Mr. Okwara, the former bodyguard of Madame Amanda, the man who, all those years ago, had pointed a gun at her tiny head, ready to end her life before it had even begun. Time had not been kind to him. His back was bent, his hair grey, his strength gone. He was no longer the brutal soldier Amanda had once relied on. But the tables had turned. The baby who could not defend herself was no longer helpless. She was now the princess of Amanda, armed, fierce, and merciless. She captured him under the cover of night, dragging him deep into the forest. She tied him to a tree, the ropes biting into his old flesh. For days, she kept him there. She did not strike to kill. Instead, she tortured him with precision, starvation, thirst, whispers of death in his ears, not to punish, not to avenge, but to make him talk.